Egypt may ban the burqa in public at any time and under any circumstances under a new draft law. Lawmakers there do say that both male and female terrorists are using the full-body veil to avoid detection.
We are currently in an ongoing war against terrorism. We should do our best to end it. The veil or niqab is used by many people as a cover for the crimes that they are committing. It's not part of personal freedom, as some say.
Well, 7 EU states have already barred the covering in public, sparking heated discussion. The UN Human Rights Committee has even ruled that France's ban does constitute a violation of human rights. Well, we can talk about this now with historian Adel Darwish and also political and social commentator Mo Ansar. You're both very welcome. Thanks for coming on tonight. Mo, let's just start with you. What's your take then on this latest bid in Egypt to ban the burqa in public places?
I think it's important to set the groundwork straight, because what we do have to acknowledge is that Egypt is a Muslim-majority country. When Abdel Fattah al-Sisi came into power and overthrew the democratically elected and internationally observed leader who was Mohamed Morsi, we saw effectively a coup d'etat, and we've seen a hardening of human rights and civil rights violations in Egypt since that time. Mass arrests of up to 700-800 people at a go, mass incarcerations, mass trials. We've seen the arrest of journalists, the Al Jazeera 4 who were there, and this is just a continuation of that. I think that at the heart of it, and just to keep this very simple, the idea that any nation, any man should legislate what a woman is able to wear, whether it's to cover her head or not cover her head, is completely ridiculous. And I think the fact that's been recognised in the French courts that these violate human rights isn't a surprise. So the fact that this is being done in a Muslim-majority country makes it even more absurd. There's no correlation between the covering of a headscarf and there is between terrorism, or else we'll be in Westminster looking for white men in pinstripe suits as well.
Adel, what do you think? Do you think there'll be support for this proposed ban in Egypt?
First of all, actually, to start by the Egyptian parliament actually rejected this proposal to begin with yesterday and today. That's been rejected. Having said so, actually, so I'm quite interested in what I'm always saying, because majority Muslim countries like Iran, like Saudi Arabia, like Qatar, like all of this, making it a law forcing women to actually ban to wear hijab and burqa and cover their hair, and they get actually sometimes lashed or arrested and put in jail if they didn't. If actually, of course, in the United Kingdom, I would not support this law because we do have freedom of choice. But taking from what actually Mo says, what he was talking about various other subjects, it isn't actually for democracy. It isn't observing human rights. But the burqa there is actually imported. That wasn't there. I mean, I was correspondent there several times, including the 1980s. It wasn't actually as spread as there. So when women are intimidated by Islamists in the streets and beaten up to wear the burqa and wear the veil, when you actually ban it, then you're actually giving it the law. You're taking it away from the church, from the religious establishment, from forcing it by Muslim thugs, Islamist thugs, into the law, where actually the police can interfere and say, no, don't not intimidate this woman because the law says in public place and she should not actually wear the burqa.
OK, well, Mo, look, one of the arguments that's being put forward, let me finish this point, is that these veils are a threat to public security, because they say they know that terrorists have used them before in Egypt, and we want to protect national security, and that should come above religious freedoms.
I think face veils and the burqa are no more, as a small piece of material, a threat to national security as underpants are. We had an underwear bomber who tried to detonate a bomb in his pants. We had a shoe bomber who tried to detonate a bomb in his shoe. If you're going to go after the headscarf, as ridiculous as it is, you're going to start having to go after people's shoes and pants soon. So let me just park that up for a second. There is a more fundamental question here, and a really important civilizational question, which is, where is the tipping point? What is the balancing test for balancing human rights, individual liberties, against the need for securitization and national security for the state? Whether or not a burqa, a headscarf, a mohican, any other form of dress has been imported culturally or theologically, it is a woman's right to choose. If she chooses to wear it, that's part of her spiritual journey. No man, no woman, no child, nobody should be forced to dress against their will or their desire. Of course, we have laws for the public space. You couldn't go shopping at your local market stark as naked, and nor, especially for me and others, would that be a great look. However, when it comes to the burqa, the idea that we would limit a woman's right to wear a face veil, if she so chooses as part of her spiritual journey, she should be entitled to do that. That is a freedom. That is a secular freedom. And I don't think that really there is any law that should be prohibiting women from dressing how she chooses.
Adel, just on that topic, I've heard the argument that, look, you know, you're not allowed to wear a crash helmet when you go into a bank. People need to see who you are. Do you not see any circumstance where it is advisable to remove the veil?
Yes, of course. You know, if you are in court, you cannot actually give evidence wearing it. It's, as I said, for security. There have been actually instances in Egypt and elsewhere where actually men pretending to be women and the burqa. So it's for security. That is very, very important. And it actually is a bit laughable when Islamists say actually it's a woman's right when they deny gay right, they deny people's right, they deny your right to have a glass of wine with your food. It's actually banned, written in law in this Muslim country. So it's quite actually hypocritical and double standard to actually suggest that it's actually.
I don't think anybody's saying that we should be allowing or that we should be banning sexual freedoms. I think it is a very slippery slope. I think it is a very slippery slope when you are starting to legislate what Muslim women and non-Muslim women, presumably. I mean, if a Jewish woman wants to cover her head, or somebody wants to wear it as a fancy dress, or these are part of a secular rights and freedoms. And the othering, and it's not just, we're not really talking from a fanatical or an Islamist or an extremist standpoint. What we're talking about is the fundamental rights that the likes of Voltaire or that John Locke, who took the Lockean ideals to the US and took those freedoms forward.
OK, maybe just let Adel respond.
If you have read the draft of our proposed law, it's not actually banned as in France. It is like me, I cannot actually go to a dinner party without a black tie if it's actually stated as a black tie. So if you are going to a security zone, i.e. a government institution, or a military base, or airport security, or any of these places, you are required to remove the veil. Like, I cannot actually go fully clothed into a swimming pool or a gym. Okay. I made an example of anyone to join a club.
I think Adel's decontextualizing this. I think you're decontextualizing this very badly.
OK. Mo, let me just move that on slightly.
So I just wanted to...
Go on. Well, go on. If you just briefly respond. All I wanted to ask you...
It was a really quick thing, which was that decontextualizing it is really dangerous because the Egyptian government, who are hardline, there was a coup d'etat that put them in place. They have been crushing civil liberties and freedoms and values. What they are saying is that there is a correlation between the full face veil and Islamic fundamentalism or extremism or terrorism. They are creating a blurred landscape. And that isn't right, because the face veil doesn't mean terrorism.
Sure. OK, Mo, are there any unintended consequences of pursuing a policy like this? Because it's presented as just as a matter of security, but does it stir up further troubles later on, further down the road, that people seem to be unaware of?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you have to remember that when we're talking about the context and we're talking about the cultural milieu that's taking place in Egypt at the minute, you know, when Morsi was overthrown and Sisi came into power, we've had non-stop uprisings since then. We've had insurgencies, we've had increased terrorism, the governments have to respond to securitization. So the minute you say to women in the public space, we want you to be emboldened, we want you to be empowered, take jobs, liberate yourselves. Yet, however, if you happen to wear a headscarf as part of your liberation journey, your spiritual journey, you're not welcome in the public space. So don't have a government job, stay at home, stay indoors, don't take an education. Education's only for people who want to show off their hair, don't you know? It's only for people that we think are part of the in club, that are enlightened, that are have liberal Western values. There are plenty of people who don't wear a headscarf and have very nefarious, dark political interests. And there are plenty who wear the headscarf that have very liberal, tolerant and libertarian values. And we need to get our heads straight on this issue.
Adel, I saw you laughing there. It's a serious point, though, isn't it, this being made?
Because you actually said part of women liberation is to cover herself, imposed by a doctrine. It's quite a laughable matter.
Yeah, you don't get to mansplain. You don't get to mansplain.
And old sort of documentaries. You see the universities in Egypt when women actually were in short skirts, were allowed to live with this. It was quite secular there. You can have a drink, you can have a dance, and all of that. We never heard of terrorism or bombs. There is the association between Islamization.
So there's no terrorism in Egypt in the 1960s.
Terrorism is actually evident there. And I take it from Mo's answer. He's just suggesting that the more veil they will have, will be angry about removing the veil, that they might resort to terrorism. I just take the answer from what he said.
OK, and just lastly, and I'll go to Mo for this.
Adil, that is a joke. All right.
All right, Mo, just let me go to this next point. As I'm reading here, 7 European countries have banned the burqa so far in public places. Do you feel there's a growing acceptance or a growing push or a growing movement to do this? And would you anticipate to see more countries follow suit? Mo?
I think we've seen a growing factionalisation and a hardening and a polarisation of the debates. And I think what we will see is an increasing effort by the populist parties, the far-right movements in Europe, the likes of, I mean, if Merkel goes in Germany, Alternative for Deutschland are in pole position. I think we're going to see more hardening towards migrants, towards immigrants, anti-multiculturalism. I think with Aaron Banks in the UK and UKIP and the Brexit campaign and the Leave campaign, with the likes of, I think Bonnie Greer, a friend of mine, famously called Aaron Banks a penny shop, a pound shop Steve Bannon, I think. But we're going to see, and Trump's done well in the Senate as well with the midterm election. So I think we're going to see a hardening of views towards Muslims, towards migrants. At the same time, we will see the pro-multiculturalists rallying on the other side. They've been slow to respond. The leftists, the progressives, the socialist movements. This is about freedoms. A short skirt is not libertarianism. Okay. A headscarf is not conservatism. We need to open our minds and become a bit more elevated about these issues, guys.
And Adele, final word to you, just 30 seconds, please.
Well, in Europe, I will totally, that's the paradox. In England, in Europe, in general, in the West, I will resist laws banning anything because we are a truly open society of freedom of individual. But when you have a nanny state like Egypt, everyone is depending on the state, you need this kind of law to really protect women from thugs forcing them to wear the veil and the burqa. All
right, well, look, good to get both of your views on this. That was Adel Darwish, historian and also political and social commentator Mo Ansar. Thank you both. To you both.